Hi, this is Lori from GLP-1 Journey in Review. Today, we're doing a video in my interview series where we talk to people about their weight loss journeys. Today, we have with us Jo, who is also a content creator, and her information is going to be linked down below in the description. So after this video, please jump over to Jo's channel, like, subscribe. It really does help. If you find this video useful at all, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. It really does help. You have no idea how much it helps, and it keeps content like this coming. I want to remind everybody that I am not a healthcare provider. My guest is not a healthcare provider. We're talking about what works for us. If you are planning on a weight loss journey, I strongly suggest that you do see a healthcare provider. All that being said, Jo, why don't you tell us a little bit something about yourself?
Well, Laurie, you know I've been dying to get on the interview, but we've had to keep postponing it. So while I've been postponing it, I've been watching all of your interviews. So I'm going to start by saying, my name is Jo, and I am from Nottingham, which is in the Midlands part of the UK. I'm 49 years old. I'm 5'5.5", and I'm currently 261 pounds.
So, which medication are you taking?
I'm taking the Mounjaro, and I'm technically on 7.5 mg a week, but we'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later.
And how much weight have you lost so far and how much time?
I have lost 90 pounds in 6 months.
That's great. That's great. 90 pounds is great.
I cannot
So,
believe it.
mhm. So what made you decide to go on a GLP-1 medication?
Well, Laurie, you and I, we know each other. So this
Right.
is for those people who don't know me. So I'm sorry if I'm going to be mentioning the things that you know already. But I
Well,
have
we
been...
just love hearing from you, Jo.
Oh, well, in that instance then. I'm trying to tone it down. I've put on a nice dress today,
No,
so it's
no,
like,
no, don't tone it down. We
don't
want the
tone it
real
down.
Jo.
Oh, here we go. Well,
Bring
as
out
you
Michael.
know,
Let's go.
we'll do some dancing in a bit. I tell you what, we have got. We've got a Colin. Colin might make an appearance a little bit later.
Wow. Those
So,
of you that
oh,
don't know, Colin is her CPAP machine and Michael is her cane.
that's it. Sir Michael, arise, Sir Michael. And there we go, look. I'm now able to stand, which is one of the reasons why I'm now actually on this journey. My journey is sleep and slim down journey. And you just mentioned Colin, my significant other. You know what I say. He holds me close at night. He's my saviour. But he is my saviour because I was very, very unwell until April the 4th when I got Colin my CPAP machine and my Mounjaro arrived. Now, the reason why I actually started Mounjaro was, remember I was saying I was very unwell, and I did a sleep study in September 2024, but I'd not had the results back yet. And then I'd been made redundant from work because there was a restructure. That happened in November. But my health was actually so bad that I was actually planning on moving from my lovely little house in the city centre to a house that was adapted for someone in a wheelchair. Because my health was so bad and my mobility was so bad, my dexterity and everything, my cognitive, I couldn't function very well because I just constantly got brain fog. And I was about to move into that house when, thankfully, I got made redundant in November. And I say thankfully because although I lost £4,500 on it, on the deal, I no longer need to move into that house. And that was because of the things that happened in the new year that included Colin and Mounjaro. So let me tell you specifically what happened. I mentioned to you before my good friend Emma. She's my best friend. I know I've mentioned Emma to you before, haven't I? And you know, because like I've done the knitted character for you and Carol, I've got knitted characters of so many subscribers, but you'll have seen Knitted Emma several times on my channel. So she's my bestie. And her husband, he picked us up just before Christmas to go and spend the afternoon round at their house with my godson Mason. And I was very unwell. And as I say, I was having to be picked up because I was struggling to get out the house on my own. So I think it was Emma actually picked me up. And then we went over to hers. And that's when I saw Richard. And he came in, gave me a huge hug. And I'm like, what is this? I said, where are you all? What's happened? And he says, Jo, I've been on Mounjaro for 4 months and I've lost 4 stone already. And I thought, wow. And that's how I ended up on Mounjaro.
And you've been on it ever since. Do you plan on staying on this medication for a long time, for during your maintenance? Have you planned that far ahead?
Now, technically, I haven't planned that far ahead. But that's because I'm still getting used to the fact that I've got this future. Because even when I saw Richard and he was telling me just before Christmas that he's on Mounjaro and he's losing the weight, I knew, and don't get me wrong, at that point I was 351 pounds, sorry. But I knew the weight wasn't as much of an issue. I knew the weight was a symptom of, or a consequence of this other thing that was going on with my body. And the weight was then going on every £8 every month. So although I knew that he was losing weight on it, the reason why I actually went on Mounjaro was because he said, I'm sleeping better. I'm snoring less in my sleep. And I know he had gastrointestinal issues the same way I do. I suffer from irritable bowel syndrome. And he says, and that's massively improved. And that was the reason why I was thinking about going on it. For those particular reasons, I knew I wasn't sleeping well. I didn't know at that time that I had sleep apnea, but I knew I wasn't sleeping very well at all. And I knew that I was still suffering with really bad irritable bowel syndrome, even though I'd cut out complex carbs that affected my IBS since 2014, and yet still I was now spending lots of time on the toilet and yet putting all of this weight on a month. So that was the reason why I went on it. The reason why I think I will stay on it is because turns out I have got the disorder of obesity. Because I've got other metabolic disorders. I've got the sleep apnea, as we've mentioned. I've got the hypertension. I've got fatty liver disease. And obesity is one of those metabolic disorders, isn't it? So, I mean, I know, especially because you work in a medical field as well, your understanding is more that it's not just about what people think things are. Obesity is a medical condition. We just got to get.
It's a disease.
It's a disease, isn't it? So, someone going, "Oh, well, I don't believe that obesity is a disease or not." Well, until you've done your what is it, that sign that your doctor's got in his doctor's surgery room? What's that sign?
About Google? Don't confuse Google with my 12 years of college, my 20 years of experience.
That's what I mean. If the doctors know that obesity is a condition, I'm not interested in what the man down the street thinks it is. It's a disease. We know it is. And knowing now that I do have that sick disease, along with these other metabolic diseases, I think I need to stay on it for the rest of my life, however long that will be.
That kind of brought up something that I just want to put out there, because I heard this saying, not just a saying, I heard this mentioned. One of the doctors said that, well, I always thought that overeating caused obesity, and they corrected me and said, no, obesity causes overeating.
Yes, I hearing that. Was it that there was the conference
It was at a
that,
conference, yes,
yes,
obesity conference, that somebody mentioned that.
and it just did that, doesn't it? And suddenly it's like the light bulb moment, and it's, as you say, all those years that we've suffered with puppy fat, or all those years that suddenly your weight was creeping on, and then you'd do something and you'd get it off, but then it would come back, and we'd all think it was our own fault, and we'd punish ourselves saying it was our own fault. I love that. The rationale now is that it's obesity that causes you to overeat. That suddenly makes a huge difference in our appreciation of what this disease actually is.
Mm-hmm. Now, you being in the UK and me being in the US, I'm going to explain some of the stuff how the GLP-1s are sold here. First of all, insurance doesn't want to cover them because they're expensive. If you're lucky enough to have an insurance that covers it, you're one of the few. Now, they will cover them for diabetes, but as far as sleep apnea, sometimes. For weight control, very rarely. So we have what's called compounding, where when the medication was in a shortage, these compound pharmacies were allowed to make an exact duplicate of the medication and sell it legally as long as the medications were in shortage. As soon as they were taken out of shortage, what they did was they kind of altered, it's the same medication, but they'll add like vitamin B3 or B6 to it. So they could say, no, it's specially formulated for this class of people. And that's sold at a much
Right.
cheaper rate. Now, the companies, in order to try to compete with that, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk started selling directly to the customers at a lower price. So with Novacare, I think their medication is about $3.99 if you go directly through them,
Right.
and Eli Lilly is $5.99 a month if you go directly through them. The catch being that if you don't order every 45 days, it jumps up to the $1,200 price, so that people don't try
Oh,
to stockpile or order a larger dose and try to use it twice and so forth. So that's how they combated
I
that.
see.
So um, the vials that you get directly from them, you could draw out what you want. As far as if you're getting name brand from the actual pharmacy, which ours are like CVS or Walgreens, it's a one shot, one dose. There's no way you could split it. No clicks like your pens have where you
Love
could just take part
Chris.
of the dose. Now, if you could explain how it works in the UK, that way both countries will know how the other one works.
Perfect. Before I do, can I ask you one quick question about the
Sure,
pricing?
absolutely.
Is that $5.99 cost for whatever dose that you're on,
I
or
think
does it?
$5.99 is the it does go up in price, but I think it ranges from like $4.99 to $5.99 and the doses.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
don't quote me exactly. I haven't looked at it in a while. It may go up to $6.29, but it's basically right around there.
That makes sense now. Well, the reason why I asked was because in the UK, they don't have that compounding business. And
Hmm.
the reason for
Much
that,
cheaper, by the way, much cheaper.
it is much cheaper, although we know there's recently been the price hike. So, for example, we know in the UK, the cost of living is as high as it is in the US, but our monthly salary or gross salary per household is something like 40% less than what it is in the US. And as such, I think the prices were, still low, but when we think about it, it was 43% less than what we earn. It's kind of getting there. But as you know, it was September, wasn't it? They increased the price.
Hmm.
Before then, what would happen is um, you have to have the disease of obesity, but at that point, they actually looked at the classification. So the classification of a BMI of 24 or higher, Although if you got it from the NHS, it needs to be BMI of 30 and higher with a comorbidity. But we'll talk about that one in a moment. So for the private pharmacies, they go through that process of making sure that you're clinically appropriate for taking this medication. And they only offer now Wegovy or Mounjaro. We don't have Zepbound in the UK, and we don't really have Ozempic. It's Wegovy or Mounjaro. Before the price hikes, I was paying £189.99 for a 7.5 pen, which I think works out about $260. The price goes up depending on the dose. So for the 15 meg pen, that would have been £210 per month, which again is probably the equivalent of about $320. I'm saying about because Laurie, you and I know my maths is shocking. But since then, they've now increased the price. So my provider, I'm now on 12.5. No, I'm on 7.5, sorry. And for the cost of the 15 meg pen that used to be £210, my provider is now charging £329 a month for it. £1 less than the scariest number that was in the press in August. And we're saying August because they only gave us 4 weeks notice for the difference before the price is going to go up. So I mentioned a moment ago about those comorbidities. In the UK, if you have the obesity disease with the recognised BMI classification of something and more, if you have that together with type 2 diabetes, then you will get prescribed Mounjaro on the NHS. And normally that's if you've already gone through the process of trying metformin and the other processes, and they haven't really worked for you. So then they'll put it on there for you. But then in June, the NICE guidelines. So NICE is like maybe a little bit like the FDA, but it's the governance side of the NHS. So the NICE guidelines, that stands for National Institute of Clinical Excellence. In June, they said, right, from now on, we will be offering this medication to people in the next 3 years. We're going to do it in stages. So the first stage is for people who we're going to consider the type 3 weight management. They're the people who, until this decision was made, they would have been offered the bariatric surgery with the NHS. So they need to have a BMI of over 40 plus 4 of 5 comorbidities. Am I okay to tell you what those comorbidities are? Right. I'm going to try and do it with because you know again about my maths. This one here is pre-diabetes. So remember the thumb is the pre-diabetes because then I'll make sure I'll remember it in a moment when I go through the rest of it. So pre-diabetes, sleep apnea, hypertension, too much cholesterol in the blood, or heart disease. And you needed to have 4 of 5 of these together with the BMI of over 40. And for those of ethnic minorities, they were BMI of 35. And they could have it for on the NHS. And then in 2 years' time, then the type tier 2s would get it. So they'd be the ones with a BMI of over 35 and 1 comorbidity. And then by 3 years' time, the tier 1 weight managements would get it. They'd be the ones with just the obesity. I'm saying just the obesity. So that is the NHS's plan. And as such, because the NHS, which is all resolves around the government, because they've got that in place, government no longer need to worry about it. And that's why we will never get anything like the compounds, because they're saying, yeah, we've got this plan in place. We don't need to worry about shortages because we have this plan in place. It's a 3-year plan.
It sounds like a plan that's work. I just wish, for everybody's sake, it would be a little bit faster.
It'd be great if the plan worked, which was a great segue, Laurie. Remember this film. Remember this film. So, remember I spoke to Richard in December and he told me that Mounjaro helps him sleep better. Well, I was seeing my doctor and the nurse practitioner because I was struggling really bad with my asthma. And my nurse practitioner said, you're tier 3, so we should put you forward for weight management. And I went, well, that's great because my friend Richard has told me that he's on Mounjaro. So she spoke to the doctor and he said, yeah, let's refer her for tier 3 weight management. The letter came back in February and said, I'm sorry, we're not funding the Mounjaro. We're not funding use of the GLP-1 injections. So if she wants to, she can stay on the weight management waiting list, but that's for bariatric surgery. And currently the waiting list is a year long. So I was like, right, I don't know about a waiting list. So I said, well, in that instance, then I think I'll look into getting it private. And he says, that's good because I know that sometime soon, NICE guidelines have already said that we need to be recommending this, but the NHS has got to approve it. So he says, the moment I know that we can approve it, we get the go ahead, then I'm going to put you on the prescription and we'll do it that way. So remember, I've been paying for Mounjaro privately since April. And I've lost 90 pounds, which again, I'm going to celebrate. Well, I had my review, my annual review for my hypertension. They did all the blood tests. They did everything. Great news. Great news. My A1Cs are now not normal. I'm no longer pre-diabetic.
I thumb away.
That's thumbs away, right? So I says, well, that's brilliant, doctor. That's brilliant. So can I get my prescription on the NHS? And he said, no, because in Nottingham, you've got to have these 4 of 5. And I went, what? I'm always going to be pre-diabetic. And he went, no, that doesn't count. Now, you also know that if you're diabetic and you've got problems with the A1C, you will always have those problems. But according to my doctor, he said it doesn't count in Nottingham. So I'm like, right, well, let's look at these 4 again, because I have sleep apnea. I have hypertension. I have too much cholesterol in my blood. And I've got this problem with my heart disease. And he went, it's not diagnosed yet. You've not got the diagnosis of heart disease yet. You have your monitor fitted, but I'm on an 18-month waiting list for the diagnosis. But Laurie, guess what? Last night I had my remember a few months ago, you and I have been talking, and I was saying about I had my echocardiogram, and it was a right palaver. Young man trying to get me to move my girls in order so that he could get the echocardiogram capturing the noise that they needed. Those beats. Well, we had the letter come back saying because she has sinus tachycardia, which is my resting. I wake up with a resting heart rate of 117 beats per minute.
Wow.
So it's been like that for 3 years. But apparently I've not been diagnosed. So he said because of that and the fact that the hypertension was still uncontrolled, again, I've been like this for 3 years. It was inconclusive. We couldn't tell you what was going on with the echocardiogram. Then it was like, right, well, I'm not waiting 18 months. Hold on a minute. The whole reason why I'm having these issues is because back in 2018, they found out that I've actually got aldosteronism. They didn't treat it. So while they left it untreated, it's been ravaging my kidneys because I've got chronic kidney disease, fatty liver disease. I've got inflammation in my lungs and now I've got sleep apnea and all this craziness going off in my heart. So I'm like, doctor, I'm not waiting 18 months when I've already been waiting all this time, and the damage that this primary
Hmm.
aldosteronism has been doing on my body. So he wrote back to the cardiologist. Yesterday, we got a response. The cardiologist wrote, here are the results of what we got from the echocardiogram. Put lots and lots of information in there, said, and so it's inconclusive, but there's no point in us trying to do another echocardiogram because it's just not possible. But one thing he did mention, I've got left ventricular hypertrophy, which means I've got heart disease. So now I've just messaged my doctor this morning to say, doctor, I've got 4 again. Can I have it on the NHS?
It's funny how we cheer for heart disease. It's
the world has gone crazy, hasn't it?
it
I'm
has.
doing that. Fingers crossed for heart disease. It's scandalous. But when I'm having to pay £329 a month, and I'm not working at the moment because of the problems with my heart. Scandalous, Laurie. Scandalous.
I know exactly how you feel because in the US, like I'm on Medicare because once you hit 65, it's a government type of health insurance. And there is a law that was written, I think it was like 20, 25 years ago, that Medicare will not cover obesity medication, period. And the main reason for that,
Years ago.
the main reason for that is the medications at that time were basically speed. And they didn't want to see these
Oh,
70, 80, and 90-year-old people given speed to lose weight.
can you imagine the parties?
Oh, I think we lost your mic there.
I would say, can you imagine the parties that they'd be having and then falling down from heart failure?
Right, and they're right.
Oh my goodness.
So, like, it does have to be updated, and hopefully one day they will. But that's just the way it is right now. So, like,
And
and I want to get back to the prices. Like you said that they raised the
yeah,
prices here when Mounjaro was first introduced, and I want to say this is somewhere around 2022, so I think we were a little bit ahead of you. Is basically if you had any type of insurance, they gave you a coupon that you were able to get the Mounjaro for $25. That was your copay, and they had
right.
this for like almost a year. So basically, it was to get people started on it, and then all of a sudden that coupon went away, and the prices went up. Kind of like the old days of a drug pusher. Here, I'm going to give you some stuff for free to till you get addicted, and then I'm going to charge you an arm and a leg.
It is, as you say, it's drug pushing 101, isn't it?
Hmm.
Get you hooked. And now I've got a supply of ready customers. Wow. I remember when you had the interview with Neil, Neil from
Hmm.
um My Life's
My life's
Toil,
toil. Hmm.
and he's the paramedic. And he's the paramedic, but he works in a general practitioner clinic. And I
Hmm.
remember you and him were discussing this, and I remember on his channel, he was saying to us, I've always been trying to tell my viewers to find a way to manage without Mounjaro, because he says being in a medical situation for as long as he's been in, he kind of understood that this might be one of their signature moves. And as
Hmm.
you say, sure enough. And then in the UK, I know you've been talking to Ali as well from Mounjaro with Ali.
Hmm.
He's now got
Another great
to
channel.
another great channel, and he's got to maintenance now, hasn't he?
Hmm.
But at the time of in August, when he was like just a few pound away from his goal weight. Suddenly, he was told that the prices were going to be hiked up. Well, what do you do about titrating down or coming off the medication? There was no messages at all about what was going to happen. And as you say, then the other thing, of course, that Lily have done is that the moment we heard that the prices were going to go up and there was 4 weeks, I think there was about 3 days where people may or may not have been stockpiling. may or may not. I know that the information came out on Thursday afternoon as I just put in my order Thursday lunchtime for the 12.5 pens, because with my provider I used to be able to get a bundle deal. So I hadn't intentionally stockpiled, but literally within 2 days, suddenly these pharmacies, they didn't have any medication. And it turned out it was Lily telling them, don't, if you want us to restock you, don't sell anything now. And literally on September the 1st, suddenly all of those pharmacies that you couldn't get medication from, suddenly they had every dose that you needed.
Yeah, it's Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk. I mean, they definitely are the villains in this. But you think that they would try, they would try to do something to have their reputation a little bit better. But yeah.
And you know what? I don't understand. Remember, I'm no good at maths. But I spent a huge amount of my professional life working in customer care and retail.
Mm-hmm.
You want a steady supply of customers, and you also want new customers, don't you? So if you can get more new customers, your business grows. You don't need to be blocking the opportunity for medication that can change lives to those who only can pay for it. I don't understand the business model. Don't understand it.
Yeah, well, here in the U.S., they say that approximately 50% of the people on a GLP-1 medication are using a compound. And obviously, Lilly and Novo Nordisk want that business, but they don't seem to be doing anything much about getting it. Yes, they did come down to like 600, $5.99, whatever. But when you consider that these medications through the compound companies are anywhere from 200 to 400, depending on what size or what dose you're on. 50%, that's a lot of people. And on top of it, in the US, they say that 40% of the prescriptions that go out for the GLP-1 medications are never even filled. Whether it's cost, whether it's insurance, whether the people just don't want to bother, whether it's the fear of needles, and this includes
Wow.
diabetics. So, it's like you would think that they would be doing something to try to get those people.
Yeah. But no, and I know I've been watching, obviously, I watch your channel all the time, but I also watch Christopher and Lorraine from The Downsize, and Charles from
Another
Round Man
great channel.
Great channels, aren't they? And of course, Charles from Round Man of Bound. So I've been understanding the idea of they've been trying to take these compounding companies to get lawsuits on them, but these cases have been thrown out, aren't they? So the compounders are almost back in business because the threat's not as great as it once was.
Right.
So that's again where you need to bring in if you're going to bring more customers in, you've got to bring the price down. I don't understand. And the other thing that I don't understand, Laurie, I don't understand how. So for me, for example, I've got all those conditions, haven't I? I take 11 medications a day. I take 3 at night, so that's 8 during the day, and then 3 at night. Just 2 of my 4 hypertension medications cost the same amount of money as what it cost the NHS to purchase Mounjaro. Just 2, and I've got another 11. So I don't understand the rationale, or again, the narrow focus on it costs this amount of money for the medication that would save this amount of money for people who haven't got the medication, but we're not going to pay for it. Because in the UK, last year, obesity cost the NHS £11 billion in just 2024. If all those people who've got obesity have got the other metabolic diseases as well, how much are they costing in medications let alone all the costs of then having to go through surgery, having the
Right.
cost on the economy. The cost on the economy, it's so, am I using the right phrase there? I wanted to say narrow focus, but what's the
Hmm.
right phrase I'm looking for?
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely cheaper than open heart surgery,
Heck
which,
yes. Heck yes.
here in the US, we have many different insurance companies and there are private insurance companies. And their thought here is, and I'll just use Blue Cross and United Healthcare as examples. The average person changes insurance companies every 3 years, and it's usually from a change of job or your employer changes your health care because they found a cheaper deal, big company, and so forth. So Blue Cross's thought is, I don't want to spend $13,000 or $14,000 on medication for Lori for a year, when 3 years from now she's going to be with United Healthcare and they're going to get the benefits. But they forget that it's the opposite. United Healthcare is paying for, Blue Cross is going to be getting the benefits in 3 years. Because here in the US, open heart surgery is easily $100,000, $80 to $100,000 right
Wow.
there.
Wow. But
And I know
also
I'm off
this,
with 2 medications since I've been on the GLP-1 medication.
so you're already off too. So imagine them if they were the same two that I'm discussing. Mine's Candesartan and I think it was the Candesartan and Duloxetine. So it was one that was for my hypertension, the other for my fibromyalgia. Those two cost more than the Mounjaro
Mm.
cost. So imagine that could have been the saving that they'd be making. But also with that stream for the insurances, there's always a new generation of people coming into the workforce. So
Mm-hmm.
again, there's always that stream of new and existing customers.
And here you have companies like Eli Lilly that, make billions per quarter and their shareholders aren't happy with that. Well, they've proven that at $1,200 a dose, they're not happy. So, in order to increase the amount, I mean, you can't increase the price anymore. Well, they could increase the price anymore, but I think they would lose customers. But in order to get more customers, if you lower the price and double the customers, maybe that's the route to go. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, there was something I wanted to ask you actually, Laurie, because
Hmm.
again, I know you talk about this a lot, but I was on, I think it was the new WhatsApp group that Mounjaro with Ali has set up.
Hmm.
And I was on there yesterday and there was mention of other Facebook groups and things. They've been talking about the grey market of using Retta.
Hmm.
And someone in the chat said, well, Retta is the same as compounds. And I'm thinking, that's not right. The grey market has got nothing to do with compounds because, as you pointed out a minute ago, the whole point of the compounding was because they've got the exact formula that has been approved by the FDA, and it was just to cover the
Well, the
shortage.
compound medication isn't approved by the FDA, but the pharmacies that make them have state guidelines, and also they use FDA approved products.
FDA approved
So,
products. Whereas
so
Rett is not even an
technically,
FDA approved product, is it?
no,
Retatrutide.
the gray market is research. It's not meant for human consumption, and it usually comes in a powder, and you have to reconstitute it to a liquid, and it's out there. People are selling it, and I personally know one of the paramedics that I work with at work said that she's tried the retatrutide, and she didn't particularly like it as much as the tirzepatide because it didn't do much for the appetite suppression. Now, she didn't stay on it long enough to see, about the weight loss because the glucose in it is supposed to burn more calories and so forth. But she she didn't like the fact that she still didn't get the appetite suppression. But again,
Yeah,
this is gray market. You don't exactly know what you're
you don't
getting
know what you're
because
getting.
there's no approval. It
Isn't
could literally be made in somebody's garage.
And I think this takes us on to the conversation. I know you and I had this one months and months ago. Do you remember when the Biggest Loser documentary came out, and we were talking about how awful it was. But back in the time when The Biggest Loser was on TV, I was one of those people who were avidly watching it because I was so desperate to. Don't get me wrong, I've always been a bonny lass. I've always been a bonny lass, but I've been always happy to be a bonny lass. But if there was a chance I could lose 4 or 5 stone, which our stone is, again, I've got to do the maths.
14.
14 pounds per stone. So if I wanted to lose 70 pounds, then if a TV show is going to help me do that, I would have been desperate enough to do it. So I understand that level of desperation because, as you were saying, back then we didn't know anything about medication for weight loss other than those ones that was the legal speed, and no one, maybe we would have tried that, some people, but we were desperate, weren't we? Now we have semaglutides and we have tirzepatides. I don't understand the rationale for the desperation to put your life and health at risk for a product you don't know what's in it. If something happens to you, because we don't even know how it works with your other medication that you're on, and if something happens to you, who is being held accountable for it? I don't understand the rationale of the need to try anything on a grey market. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Laurie?
Well, I somewhat understand it because I take compound, and yes, there's a risk. There are some compound companies that, aren't so up and up. So, I always tell people, if you're considering a compound company, a compound pharmacy, do your homework. Now, the telehealth company is different than the pharmacy. So from your telehealth company that's prescribing it, find out who the pharmacy is that they use and do your research, check it on Reddit, check to see if there's any state complaints and so forth. Because there is a slight risk, but there's also a slight risk with name brand. I mean, they're finding some, they just found some, hairs in the product and so forth on name brand.
Right.
It wasn't actually Eli Lilly, but it was a company that they had just purchased. So, anything, you're taking a risk. So the fact that I didn't want to pay $1,200 and I'm going to go the 300-ish route, slight risk, did my homework, minimized it. Now with the gray market, there's even less homework that you can do, but they're probably getting it even cheaper than the compound. And some people, asking them to pay $300 a month is still pricey.
Yeah.
So, I could see how people could get desperate. And if compounding was going away, fortunately, at that same time that they were trying to get it to go away, is when Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk came out with the, buying from them direct. It is a couple $100 more. Some people feel safer going that route because, at least it's Lilly or Novo Nordisk, and, somebody that you could actually hold accountable. Again, they've got so much money that if you were to sue them, I don't know what would happen. Where these compound companies, again, slighter risk, people have to outweigh that because people are
Yeah.
desperate to lose the weight.
And that
They don't want to
again,
die.
they don't want to die. And again, I understand, and now I see that perspective. Again, that's why there's a market, there's a huge market for Lilly and for Novo Nordisk if they brought the price down. Imagine how many people who would lap it up. Because I remember, and again, we talked about the media before, and they used to always have the stars on Ozempic face and everything. Well, yeah, there are some people who are taking it because they want to look great in the bikini, ready for the next holiday. But most people don't want to be injecting themselves with anything, do they? Unless there's some sort of rationale behind it. There's a reason for it improving their health in some way is one of the reasons why they're prepared to do the injections, for example. there's this guy, there's something, I cannot remember his name, and I probably won't mention his name anyway if I did know it, because of the legalities of it. But in the UK, there's been this big furore about this fella on one of the social media platforms, and he's been offering, first of all, I think it started with him offering injections and fillers in the lips and face. Whether
Botox.
he's been Botox, whether he's got license to do that or not, I don't know. But then he started offering the Brazilian butt lift, and people were desperate,
Mm-hmm.
prices being what they were, that they would go to some guy off social media, and he'd meet them in a office building, where they can rent the rooms by the week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And with barely any medical things that they're involved at all, they would readily have this thing put into them, and several people have actually died from it. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been stopped. He's been stopped from doing the Brazilian butt lift. He's now selling semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide on this grey market, and people are buying from the person that they're already aware is responsible
Hammer.
for this. He's a scammer, and I'm like, how desperate are people not to die, that they're putting their life at risk? And as I'm saying that, I'm now remembering that back before I got Colin and my Mounjaro, I was dying. You seen that video that I put out a couple of weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, where you can hear that I'm not breathing, and every 20 seconds that I'm not breathing, I do that desperate gasp for air, don't I? Desperate gasp for life. And I live on my own. I would have been dying. My heart would stop beating for up to 4 seconds in the night. So I don't think I'd have been desperate enough to go to some guy off the grey market. But then I'm not living in the shoes of somebody who is. So
Mm-hmm.
I think with awareness, hopefully with awareness, people better understand the grey market. Compounding, I don't believe compounding is the same as grey market, especially as you say,
No, it's
you've
not.
got the ability to do the research and find out about the pharmacist. But some bloke that you don't know off the internet, and you don't even have like a forwarding address to return the stuff to,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd
I,
be
I
buying.
I always tell people, if you don't need a prescription or you're able to get the medication for $69 or $79, run, because
Yeah.
it's a
Why
prescription
is it?
medication, and if the price is too good to be true, there's something wrong with it. Unless it's just a one-time thing, and then the next month you go back up to regular prices or something like that.
That is so true. That is such a good way of thinking about it. Because as you say, it's never going to be that and be the real thing. It'll
Hmm.
never cost that and still be the real thing.
It's the same thing with a Gucci purse. If you could get one for $10, I'm gonna probably say it's a fake.
That bag is not going to last you long. You've just wasted $10, my friend. But you're not injecting that into your body, isn't it? That's the point. That's the point. What's your thoughts then on the orforglipron? That's going to be the one that.
I'm looking forward to that, because not that I'm afraid of injections now. I was when I started, and let me tell you, when I first got the medication, it took me like a half an hour of, come on, you could do this, you could do this,
Oh,
before I
bless
actually did
you.
it.
Yeah,
But not
brace
that I'm
yourself.
afraid of
That
it,
sort of thing.
and I
Wow.
like the way that the tirzepatide works. But just to pop, a pill in my daily medication, I don't care that it's not quite as effective, because I'm in maintenance. People like me and Allie who are in maintenance, I think
Yes.
this is an answer. And
Yeah.
it doesn't need refrigeration. It's very cheap to make. They've already got millions and millions of doses ready as soon as it's approved.
Oh,
It's
right.
they're talking somewhere around a 200 price ish, so that it's a
Right.
little bit cheaper. And so for me, you know, I think it's going to be. a good thing, or at least I'm willing to try it. If it doesn't work, I just go back onto the tirzepatide.
But I think that's very sound. I'm even now thinking about orforglipron. I remember the same week that you guys got the results about, oh no, it's not performed as well as it should have been. In the UK, we got results of, hey, this could do this and it could do it. Not quite as good, but, and they put a completely different spin on it. And I'm
Hmm.
reading between the lines, knowing that Eli Lilly have got this deal with the NHS. They've just signed a multi-billion-pound deal with them and about weight management and medication. I think the NHS is going to go down the orforglipron route. And you know
Absolutely.
what?
And that's
Why
a good,
not?
you know, and I always tell people when they ask me what medication should I use, I'm like, well, first of all, is there one that your insurance will cover? Because that's the one you should
Yes.
try first. Because if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, then you go to other options. So, if they're going to cover the orforglipron, why not try it? It's not going to hurt anything. Hopefully, it'll do the same like with the sleep apnea and the heart disease and the liver
Yes.
disease and so forth that the injection is. But you could always go back to that. So,
You know,
I always tell them start with that and go from there. If, if it's not covered, well, then you have options, and that's something that you should talk to with your provider and, work with your budget. Obviously, if you can't afford the gold tirzepatide, or even the semaglutide, there's older medications you could try. And there's one I think it's Rybelsus or one of the ones that just came out in a generic, so it should be fairly inexpensive.
right.
Why not try that? What if you have, to lose a month or two, okay, this is working or this is not working, and then go from there.
And you know what I always think as well, especially with the mention of the insurance. I It's great that you've got a goal and it's great that you're working to a goal. But my goal has always been improved health and surviving. Because remember,
Hmm.
I thought was dying. So I don't know if it's from that perspective that I have this rationale. But if you and I are saying that we plan on being on this for the rest of our days because we understand that we've got a metabolic disorder and the
Hmm.
disease of obesity, then don't think necessarily about a weight loss goal, an end date in sight, because there's not going to be an end date. So instead, if it works slower than an injection, but you're going to be on the same thing for the rest of your life, take the pill.
Hmm.
Take the pill.
Absolutely. But, some people aren't planning on being on it for life. They think that their learning good habits and so forth are enough. And, for some people it is. But I think they say it's something like, I don't know if it's like 70% or 80% of the people within 2 years regain the weight. So,
And why
odds
is
are a
that?
little bit against you.
Again, why is that? It's because they have obesity and obesity makes them eat. It's got
Mm.
nothing to do with willpower. It's got nothing to do with habits. I was listening to um, Jamie's interview from last night when he was on Round Mound of Zepbound.
Mhm.
And I know he was also appeared on The Downsides a couple of months before. He had a great analogy, and I've added to it because you know what I'm like. Always have to have the last word. But no, he had a great analogy, and it's about the food noise. Because many people, even before they started this medication, a GLP-1, they did not know that other people didn't have this thing going on. And we know it as being the food noise. And he said, for people who never had food noise, explain it to them as Timmy, the 2-year-old toddler, in the store. You've got your shopping list. You know what you're going to buy. You know how much money you've got. You've got a plan. But Timmy has just passed the confectionery aisle. And you say, no, Timmy, you don't need that. We're going to eat something when we get home. It's going to be great. It's going to be your favorite thing. But Timmy wants that right now. And regardless of all the things that you've said, because you're a parent, you're in control, Timmy is still misbehaving and he's going to be shouting and screaming at you that he wants that thing that he saw As you say, he's got no hunger for it, but he wants it. And that's food noise, isn't it? And I said,
Mhm.
well, I think, Timmy, we need to explain one thing more to those people, because those people will say, well, you're the parent. You tell Timmy what the right thing is to do, and you teach Timmy the lessons. And I think that is what a lot of people are saying, not only outside the GLP-1 community, but also those who believe that obesity is not a disease. You know, the ones that think that obesity is something that they've done to themselves and they're going to get out of it themselves, which again is commendable. But it is a disease, and obesity makes
Mhm.
you eat more, regardless of whether you're hungry or not. My best friend always says, I didn't get fat from being hungry. So I say, for that analogy, you've got to tell people that Timmy, you don't leave him at home, because a parent doesn't leave a child at home
Mhm.
crying and screaming on their own as they go out shopping. That doesn't happen. But maybe Timmy is now with a babysitter who has brought his favorite games, his favorite video games, and a pet monkey. You know, Timmy is completely distracted. And that is the GLP-1. You've either got enough GLP-1 in your system or you haven't. And if you haven't, it doesn't matter what you try and do to help Timmy, you're still going to be hearing those noises. And one day you may find yourself succumbing. And what was it? 80% of people are finding that they are.
Mhm. So I want to find out your opinion on people that don't have obesity that are taking a GLP-1. And I always use my brother as an example because he's not heavy. You know, sometimes he has 10 to 20 pounds that he could lose, but that's about it, and he takes the GLP-1 medication and he loses it. And eventually it might come back, so he'll go on it again. Well, now he's thinking of taking it, losing it, and staying on a low dose and maybe spreading it out. I used to be very much against this because, one, it's a medication that you didn't need. But now that they're coming out with so many other good reasons for being on it, like addiction. My brother does drink quite a bit of alcohol and he just can't drink it like that when he's on it. So he basically has one or two drinks a week instead of two or
Right.
three a day. We do
Wow.
have heart disease in our family. We,
Right.
do have some liver disease in our family. They're saying that it, 15% less chance of even getting dementia or Alzheimer's,
Wow.
Parkinson's if you're on the medication. So my opinion has changed. So I'm like, Gary, go ahead, take it.
I can't fault you with that explanation. And one thing I found is that I really, really used to suffer bad with my Raynaud's, where the circulation in my fingers and toes wouldn't come through very well through the inflammation. And so my fingers were so painful, my toes were so painful that I couldn't stand. And my grip and dexterity was so badly affected. Well, the inflammation is improving because of the tirzepatide.
Mhm.
So they're now even talking about, remember I was saying about my sister doesn't suffer from obesity, but she has rheumatoid arthritis. She has MS. Both of those are inflammatory conditions. And I heard recently that there was some talk about doing some sort of trials for MS patients with
Mhm.
tirzepatide. So again, I can't fault people's rationale for wanting to take something that may make them healthy. You can you remember back in the day they used to say an aspirin a day keeps the doctor
Keeps the
away.
doctor away.
If it turns out that that aspirin may be problematic for your health, then you stop taking the aspirin. But that's why it's so important to work with your medical team, isn't it? That's why it's so
Absolutely.
important to let your general practitioner know that you're even considering doing something like this. And I remember I was talking with Lorraine from the Downsized. Some of the doctors are still not quite getting it.
No.
Does not matter if you go in and you tell them what the things that are happening with you privately taking it, or the things that you're aware of they've got to at least record that you've made the request. They've got to at least put it
Mhm.
in your notes. So then they have to explain why they didn't offer you the thing that you knew would be supporting you because of heart disease in the family, liver disease in the family, the Alzheimer's disease in the family.
Well, I know here in the U.S., I mean, one way to get almost any medication, we'll exclude narcotics from this, but is basically if you go to your doctor and say, "Hey, I heard about this medication. I think I should try it," and they can't find, a reason why you shouldn't try it, but they say, "No, I just, don't think you should be on it." You say, "Fine, but please note that in my chart." And all of a sudden, they're grabbing their prescription pad and they're giving it to you because they're worried about getting
Oh,
sued. What happens,
oh, so there is a legitimate cost to them by disagreeing with your opinion when it's not necessarily opinion, it is factually based, isn't it?
Yeah, well, especially if you tell them to note it in the chart, because otherwise,
Noted on the chart.
yeah.
And that takes us back to the doctor's message that you had in your doctor's surgery about
Hmm.
the Google of it all. If the thing that you're requesting, there's no base in science or anything about it, they're not going to mind having that noted in the chart.
Right.
If I said to you, do you know what, doctor? I would like you to give me codeine because I heard it helps me lose
Well,
weight.
I don't know if
Put
it's
it
the
on
same thing with
Google.
narcotics. So, yeah. But
Yeah,
if you say, "No, I think I should be on this asthma medication," and you actually have
just
asthma, and
because
there isn't a contraindication with one of your medications.
they've got to, and you say, note it down in my notes, and then things will change. That is a fantastic tip. That is a fantastic tip. And I think as well, a lot of the things that they're trying to do more, certainly in the UK, I know it's the same way in the US because I used to work for a commercialization partner with the healthcare industry. We
Hmm.
understand that we're trying to get people to have a bit more, what's that phrase? I want to say ownership, but more like proactiveness about the problems that they may be having. So,
Hmm.
and that's not necessarily going to Dr. Google, but go to Dr. Google Scholar and find the papers. And then I mean, I used to be a medical secretary, so I find it easier to read some of these medical papers. But that's what AI is for, isn't it? You can say, well, what does this mean that it says in this report? And get a better understanding of the rationale for things. And that certainly helps you make better decisions for your own health outcomes.
Absolutely. So one thing I've noticed with the next class of medications that's coming out is that a lot of these trials are more geared, for like fatty liver disease or other,
Yes.
they're not geared at weight loss. So, I think that insurances, if they see all these studies, they're going to have a harder time not approving it because, it's not
Oh,
really a weight loss medication, it's to prevent liver disease or it's to prevent, heart disease or, it's,
oh, I understand now. I understand. Right, because again, I've always said, although I'm losing weight, it's Joe's sleep and slim down
mhm,
journey. The sleep is the thing that is so much more important to me, and the health elements is so much more important to me. And the weight gain was possibly because of as a symptom of those
mhm,
healthy things those things that were happening to me. So I always presumed that the rationale for going down the MASH or the use
mhm.
of semaglutides with chronic kidney disease was for the patient. I hadn't realised it was to get around the insurer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do have the patient in mind, hopefully. But the main thing is like, how could we get insurances to cover it? Because that's how we're going to get more use
Right, that's how I'm going to
and
get paid.
around the high prices.
And as you said, it's terrible quid pro quo. I can't say
Hmm.
that word. but hopefully the patient is involved in the thought process somewhere. But again, maybe we go back to The Biggest Loser. They never thought about the contestants. It was an entertainment show. The contestants just happened to lose weight.
And most of them regained it. And
And with
actually,
the healthy juice.
there's a big group, Adrian, who I interviewed and also did plenty of other interviews, is in a group of former contestants. And she said a lot of them are on a GLP-1 medication now and losing weight the proper way. So, hopefully there's hope for them. I didn't ask her who, because, it's not
No,
my
understand.
business, and that medical type of stuff just shouldn't be out there. If somebody wants to talk about it, fine, but I don't think anybody should be outing them.
Now that is a good question, because I was going to ask you about that one. Can you remember when Lizzo came out and said that she had used Ozempic before, but she has lost weight, but she had used Ozempic before? And I have to admit, I was speculating. I'm saying she didn't say that she's tried tirzepatide before, but it's, when we think about it, it's not for Lizzo to tell us what medication she's on, is it?
Right.
Or not on.
Right.
It really isn't, because that's what the HIPAA laws are all about, isn't it? You've got your own,
Right.
you've got the ability for confidentiality.
Absolutely. Just the other day, we had the Downsized Diva was interviewing the Countess of Shopping, and she asked if she was diabetic, and she's like, I'm not going to answer that because it's a HIPAA thing. As she has the right, I mean, yes, she does have a GLP-1 channel, and she admits she's on GLP-1, but other medical conditions, unless she wants to talk about them, are none of anybody's business.
And as Downsizing Diva, she happily accepted that, didn't she?
Absolutely.
Another two great channels there you mentioned. DDC's my mentor. But yeah, I agree with that. And I'm thinking we shouldn't be going, oh, have they got the Ozempic face? Or, oh, they're losing weight. Could they be on?
I have to admit that as my wife and I are watching TV, and there's a heavy actress, and then you see them like 3 months later and they're pretty thin. We're like, hey, you think it was Ozempic or tirzepatide? That's the first thing that we say to each other. But we wouldn't do that in public. So strike that remark. Entertainment value only. I'm not saying anybody's on it.
But the thing is, though, it's a natural human question to ask. But we don't really need to know the answer, do we? We don't really need to know the answer. And I think
if they want a minute, fine.
Yeah, and I think that goes to those people who are in the community who are secret users, because there's, we're trying to dispel the stigma. We know we're trying to. There's so many good stories, and for example, if Richard hadn't have told me that he was on Mounjaro, would Colin alone have been able to make the changes that I'm seeing? So, I think that it's great if you do feel able to say, but if you don't feel able to say, that's down to you. That's your
Absolutely
confidentiality, and you're right, isn't it? And no one needs to know if you're on it or not. Maybe your doctor. I would say your doctors really should know.
Your doctor should know, yes.
Because of the contraindications of it all. But, anybody else, no, I don't think they need to know.
Absolutely. So what does a day of food look like to you?
Well, great question. So, as you know, Laurie, I am part of the keto, low carb, carnivore communities as well. Because remember I was saying back in 2014 when I found out that I'd got the irritable bowel syndrome, and it would mean that I would be racing up to the loo and pretty much staying on the loo for 2 days. That's how long it took for the foods that were setting off the problems in my stomach for it to actually clear my stomach. And back then I was working and I live on my own, so I've got to pay my own mortgage and everything. Choose to be on the loo and eat cake, or you choose to stay away from cake. And that was the decision I made. So I went through a FODMAP dietitian, And the
Mm-hmm.
FODMAP is that process that has come out of the Monash University, but I know it's recognised worldwide now. Like with Mayo Clinic do it, Cleveland Clinic. I know the NHS do it. And I went through a FODMAP dietitian, completely removed all complex carbs from my diet for 2 weeks, and then started introducing them to see which ones would set off my irritable bowel. Turns out there was a lot, and the majority of them were fruit, colourful veg, onion, and garlic.
What do you eat?
This is the onion and garlic. Well, that takes all takeout and restaurant foods, because everyone uses onion and garlic. I found that I couldn't eat iceberg lettuce. I couldn't eat. There were so many things that I couldn't eat. And it's like, well, what can you eat? Well, thankfully, Joe is a chicken lover. And if anyone asked me what would be my desert island dish, it would be chicken or egg. But if I had the chicken, I could get the eggs as well. So Joe's a chicken lover. And as such, if I make my own rubs, because I can have chilies, but I can't have the onion, celery, garlic, and mustard. I think it's mustard seeds that affect me. So I make my own rubs, and I'm always eating chicken. So it naturally turned out that I was low carb. And then I saw a rheumatologist who diagnosed me with the Raynaud's and the fibromyalgia. Back then, we thought I had Sjogren's because my mouth was really dry and the respiratory and my eyes. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But she said, Joe, she says, you're unwell. Your body is unwell right now. One thing you can do that may help your body, because I was saying I'm really struggling to open and cook things because my fingers were so bad. She says, if you can only eat one meal a day, why not eat one meal a day? She says, I'm going to tell you two names, Dr. Jason Fung and Jin Stevens. She says, just read those, especially Dr. Jason Fung. And if you can only eat one meal a day, then you carry on doing that, but make sure it's your full calories. So turns out I didn't realize that's what she meant, because she can't say, she's an NHS doctor. But turns out she was meaning intermittent fasting because of the insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, you can see my dark ring on my neck is a sign of insulin resistance. There's so many other versions of it as well, including the high blood glucose levels. So I've been doing one meal a day, eating 1,400 calories of a low carb meal since 2022. But I was still putting £8 a month on until I met Colin. And can I show you my 3 masks? I've got them here. I got them here for you, look. So when I did finally get diagnosed with sleep apnea, it was the 4th of April. It was a blessed day. The sun was shining and everything. And I even saw a friend and her son. I hadn't seen them for ages and met them in a hospital with over 1,000 other people, just happened to walk into each other. So it was a blessed day. Well, I was prescribed Colin, my significant other. And the doctor said to me, wearing a CPAP mask is uncomfortable. And so many people decide that they can't put up with this discomfort. But you know what, Joe? You were dying. Sleep apnea is a killer and you're dying. You need to think about your mask the same way a deep sea diver thinks about his deep sea diving kit. And, you know, you're not going to be sleeping with an oxygen tank on your back. You've just got a little CPAP machine by your bed. Well, I've got these 3 masks now, and you can work with your sleep apnea clinic, your doctor, your clinic, whatever. There's the 3 different types. And if one type does not agree with you, work with them. The first one is the nasal one. It just goes over your nose and it covers your face. There's this long pipe that is just feeding you oxygen throughout the day and throughout the night, sorry. As you can see, this doesn't, they sent me a small. I mean, come on. So this was not the right
There's
one for
nothing
me.
small about Joe in a
There's
good way.
nothing small about me. Maybe my math skills. But this is the one that they sent me, and this is not right for me. I feel like Goldilocks now. I feel like Goldilocks. So I also received this one. I call this one the Bane mask. Goes over your mouth and over your nose. And it does have this silicone here, but this bit here is a harder case. Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a side sleeper, so I'm finding that hard case then gets pushed onto my nose and onto my skin. It becomes very uncomfortable, and it's the discomfort that wakes me up, not the sleep apnea anymore. So this is Daddy Bear. Let's call this Daddy Bear. That one's Baby Bear. So here is Mommy Bear. This is the one that's just right for me. It's the soft shell one. And what happens is it goes over your mouth, but it sits just under your nasal. I'm pointing at the wrong bit. Sits just underneath your nostrils. And there's these nasal, very, very soft.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sends the air up up through the nose and into the respiratory system. And if you are a mouth breather, then it's got you covered as well. And this one is my Mama Bear. This is the one that I love. Although, look, it broke. It broke. And so I've had to request a replacement. And it normally takes my sleep clinic at least a week to try and figure it out. Well, I've just found that it's available on Amazon. So I'm going to get my replacement tomorrow. I've been having to sleep with Daddy Bear for the last couple of nights now, and it's not very comfortable.
But now, don't they make an implant for sleep apnea? I think it's called the Inspire.
Yes, there's some different technologies that come out, including the implant, and it's a little bit like, I'm not sure if you can see, it's a little bit like my heart monitor, where it's implanted, but it's implanted just under the skin, so it's not underneath any muscles or anything. It's only local anesthetic. It's a very simple procedure, and they put it there, and what it does, depending on the different kind of sleep apnea you've got, but what it does, it tells the muscle that is blocking the airways, it sort of like contracts it. And then once it's contracted, is that the right phrase I'm looking for? Constricted, contracted, can't remember. But once it's tightened up, then you can breathe again. So if you truly cannot get on with the masks, then you can have that simple operation. You can also do exercises. But again, this is one thing that my doctor said to me right from the start. You are going to die unless you don't use the mask. So get used to it.
So what do you do when you travel? Do they have a travel version, or do you take this whole apparatus with you, or?
Take the whole apparatus, and I've got it as a travel bag. And I asked the same question because I've not travelled yet. I was hoping to go to the seaside earlier in the year because my mum's got a holiday home by the seaside. But it didn't happen because obviously I couldn't leave Miss Mary. But I asked the doctor and I says, can I travel without it? She goes, do you know what would happen? She said, you'd go on holiday, you'd have a terrible night's sleep. And what happens when you have a terrible night's sleep? You don't enjoy the next day. She says, so just take it. Get used to sleeping with the machine and being able to take it around with you. I think there are smaller devices. I know Philips have got a much smaller device, but it costs nearly £1,000. So, I'm not buying that.
I know one of my friends has that because they do travel a lot, and she has that little portable one.
And can you remember as well when it was the epidemic, the pandemic, sorry, they were using, certainly in the UK, they were using CPAP machines to help patients when they run out of the ventilators.
Respirators,
Because as you say, it's sending oxygen your way. And whatever one of the masks that, you know, you've got it. You've got to have it. It's going to save your life. So that's how I try and tell people about sleep apnea. If you've got it, it's a serious condition. Sleep apnea isn't just because you've got fat. So my doctor explains that there's two different kinds of sleep apnea. One is the one where you get the blockage, and that that one where you get the implant and that will constrict it. But another one is where you've got an abnormality, not an abnormality, but there's some sort of glitch in the neurons, and your body, it's called central sleep apnea, and it's where your brain just happens to forget to tell your body, your respiratory muscles, to breathe. And they treat that differently, but I don't know how they treat that one, because again, I've got obstructive sleep apnea, and I haven't really explored the central one. But with mine, my doctor says that I will be on these for the rest of my days. He said the reason why I probably got fat, he didn't say this, sorry, my asthma nurse said this one. They, because we speak a lot plainer there, me and my asthma nurse. She says sleep apnea, one of the main symptoms of sleep apnea is weight gain. And it's because of the cortisol. If you're stopping breathing throughout the night, whether you know it or not, your body's going into flight or fight mode. So up comes the cortisol, up comes the adrenaline. And for me, that was happening every 45 seconds. Huge amount of cortisol racing through my body. And that's why I wasn't losing weight. And that's kind of what my rheumatologist was trying to tell me. Because when I had my review a year later in 2023, and I says, I'm feeling a bit better because of the things you told me and the medication you put me on, but I'm still putting all of this weight on. She says, your body will be able to sort out the weight problem once it's got itself under control. And I think that's a perfect. So again, don't think of people as being the only reason why they've got sleep apnea is because they've let themselves get this overweight. That's not what it is. It's part of the metabolic disorders again.
Absolutely. And they say people that lose weight, sleep is so important because the body needs to rest in order for you to burn the calories. It's kind of like starvation mode. If it can't get that rest, it's going to hang on to whatever it can.
Everything, exactly. It's like we're going into. Do you remember the Godfather, the film The Godfather, or the book, and they go to the mattresses? That's what it's like, isn't it? It's like we're fortressed in anything. We're not letting anything be used, and then we'll just. You had a banana. Let's put that weight back on. Let's keep it. Let's store it. So I think it's so. That's why I like these kind of channels. This is why I've been loving watching not only the GLP-1 channels. Obviously, I've met you. I've met so many wonderful people through these communities, but also just the YouTube community, and as I say, I'm part of the keto and the carnivore communities. Just the willingness to learn from each other and share. And everyone keeps saying the same thing: speak to your doctors. No one's saying, don't worry, there's the snake oil I've got here and now. So no one's doing that in these communities. We're all there to support and help each other. And that's why I think for my channel, Sleep and Slim Down, you'll see me sleeping better or not if I'm to use Daddy Bear. But also you're seeing the fact that now I'm moving with Sir Michael. I'm getting out and about. I'm singing because I can breathe again. All of that nonsense. But life is good. Life is fabulous, isn't it?
Absolutely. I just yesterday I was watching a YouTube channel. It was basically a chicken channel, chicken recipes and cooking chicken, and I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty good and pretty easy. They used a little bit more mayonnaise than I would, health wise. So like I just used a dab, and I used light mayonnaise. But I look for things like that, new recipes to try, because I just ran through it myself where I was eating so much of the same thing, I was getting bored. And because I was bored, it's not that I was hungry. I'm started to think, well, what else could I have? Because this just didn't satisfy me because I have it so often.
Yeah, and I love that, the fact that not only can you find out new chicken recipes, but then you can find people like JC Calamity Jane
Hmm.
with the chickens that she's got in her. So I was literally watching her live the other day whilst she's eating a chicken wing, and
Hmm.
I didn't feel any kind of way about it.
I'm
But
going to have her on one of my lives on my other channel because her chickens are named after Grey's Anatomy, and I cover Grey's Anatomy. So she's going to show us her chicken, Alex, and what Alex has in common with Alex on Grey's Anatomy.
that is brilliant. I love the collab for the. What's that show? What's the channel called? Did you see that show?
Did you see that show? Uh-huh.
Oh, that's such a brilliant collab. That is so cool. You'll have to get me on with Sir Michael Caine.
There you go.
We could watch the Italian Job together. No, we can watch the
There you go.
Batman series.
There you go. So, what made you start your channel?
There was a lovely fella. I'm going to get all serious now. There was a lovely fella in the UK community, and it was, when the pharmacy said, in order to understand how to use the injection, go to this YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, and find it. So that was the first time I even thought about going on YouTube to check GLP-1s. And as I was searching for that channel, I found Kieran Gets Fit. Now, Kieran Gets Fit, he's from the Northeast. A lovely, lovely young man. Lovely young man. I've not seen him for a while recently. I think he stopped doing his channel for reasons that are just down to him. But a lovely young man. And he was saying at the time, I suffer with anxiety, and he's got a PTSD. And he says, but I'm coming onto YouTube because I know it's going to make a difference. And I said, Kieran, I'm so amazed that you're able to do that. And he says, that will touch somebody. So it will just touch somebody. And I'm like, but I look such a mess. I was so big, and the biggest I'd ever been, because as I say, I've always been a body lass, but I put 140 pound on because of the ill health issues. And he says, don't worry about what you look like now, because you're going to look great. He says, but do it. So that was one of the main reasons. But the bigger reason was because I knew I was going to be doing just the weekly one. And just to do that weekly vlog, when I first started, and I'd be coughing, couldn't get through a sentence without coughing. And I thought I was being really animated. Well, you look at it now, night and day, completely different. But I didn't think I was going to survive, if I'm honest. Even knowing I was going to get Colin and having Colin and that first glorious night of sleep, well, I've still got the heart issues, and I didn't think I was going to survive. But what I wanted was for my grandies, they're my nephew's children. They didn't know this version of Joe. They knew a version of Joe who would be a grey blob, and my body was physically grey because I had barely any oxygen in my body, and I just a big grey blob that needed two grown men to move it off the chair to help me up. And they'd see me at Christmas and at birthdays, but I wasn't this. And I wanted them to know that there was a version of Auntie Jo that wasn't that grey blob on the settee. So even if I hadn't made it, they still saw that I was going to try and make it. Well, now look at me. Obviously, now I'm not even worried about. One day we'll all die, but that's not anything that's now in my worries. Even though I know I've got my issues with my heart, I've got the vitality, and that's why I do end up singing and dancing, and it exhausts me. But I get so much energy from the community, and remember, I was housebound for 5 years, And then I became made redundant in November. So that was 5 months of not speaking to anybody other than just the WhatsApp messages. And then I saw people at Christmas and I'd not seen anyone. Then I used to struggle to get to the doctors, but the doctors felt like a day out because I was so unwell. And oh my goodness, Laurie, I'm telling all sorts now. I was so unwell and I was so immobile, unable to move. And remember, my house that I was going to be moving to was adapted. This house isn't. So I couldn't get into the bath. I couldn't get into the shower. And I didn't have the energy. It used to take me an hour to sort of like physically bathe myself. So then I was worried about the personal hygiene of it. So even though friends and family wanted to come round and see me, and I'd find an excuse to say no. And they watch this interview now and know this is what it was about, but they didn't know that that's what it was about. I didn't want people coming in and going, good Lord, what is that smell? But that was it. And one of my first non-scale victories was that I was able to touch my toes. But about 2 or 3 months in, I didn't tell anybody about this, but one of my biggest non-scale victories was that I was able to step into the bath. Because once I was able to stand, because I'm able to stand, but I'm not steady. So I stand and I use Sir Michael, don't I? Well, how do you shower? So I was able to get into this, and I got a gorgeous bath. It's an old cast iron. Is it cast iron? Yeah, cast iron, but from the 1950s. So deep, and it comes to about midway up the thigh. So to get in, it is a palaver. But probably by about week 12, and I didn't tell anybody about this. But this is probably my biggest non-scale victory, whereas I was able to step in the shower and have a shower for about 5 minutes, holding onto the wall. But 5 minute shower. Just awesome. I can feel better about talking about it now because it was then. But I know that there's plenty of people out there now that they might be hearing that right now and knowing that's them. And just hearing that might make all the difference to their life. Oh my God, wow. Might make all the difference to their life.
I think it was when I was talking to Barb from Health at Any Cost that she was saying that, it was something for her to be able to sit on the toilet without bruising the back of her legs or them getting stuck in the toilet seat. That was like a major accomplishment for her. I mean, there's just little things that the average person just doesn't even think about.
Never. And as you said, and your loved ones will never know that that's what was happening to you. I mean, I remember it was Cairo's first birthday party. Cairo's my youngest nephew, and his birthday late March. So his birthday party was the week before I got Colin and my Mounjaro. And the party was an hour and a half away. So I knew there's no way you're going to be able to go to the toilet. You've got to find a seat, or you're going to sit on the floor. But someone's going to have to pick you up from there. But once you're on the floor or you've got your seat, that's where you're going to stay. You're not going to eat anything because, again, you don't want to be going to the toilet. And I went for 8 hours without drinking a thing. I've got chronic kidney disease. 8 hours to get to the party. Had a fabulous time. 2 grown men had to pull me off the settee. My mum had to put my Crocs on to get me so I could start walking to the car. And the car was only 50 meters away. And it was a rigmarole to get me there. They were trying to hold me up and I was struggling to breathe and all that. Then get home. And I had the best day of the whole year that I'd had so far. That was the best day. But people didn't know that's why I wasn't eating and drinking. Because the idea of going upstairs to someone's toilet at a party and then breaking the toilet. These are sort of things that people with morbid obesity, they think about not constantly, but near constantly. The idea of going out and breaking a chair, or when I went to I went for my first cardiology appointment, and I'd lost, by that time I think I lost about 40 pounds. Great. I was going there with Michael, and I got to the appointment, and there was just row upon row of wooden chairs with wooden seats.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I could sit in it. I could just fit in. But I went up and told them, I says, do you know there's no way I would have been able to sit down here 3 weeks ago, not 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, if I'd have come 3 months earlier. This is outrageous. For a hospital for cardiology, there's not a single chair without wooden handles. It's just, it excludes people, doesn't it?
Right. Here in the U.S., we have an airline called Southwest Airlines that have just recently put what their words, like fat charge. If you don't self-declare yourself too heavy, if you're touching the sides, they're going to charge you for 2 seats. And if you don't self-declare and pay the 2 seats, there's an additional charge on top of that. I heard that, and excuse my language, but I'm like, what the fuck? And,
Oh,
now,
that
who
is
would?
horrendous. That
It's
is
like I will never
horrendous.
use them. I've never used them in the past, and they're a discount airline. But if there was ever a chance that I would use them, gone.
Gone. Gone, because again, for those of us who are traveling, we've already got the dramas of, because we know we're not going to fit into the toilets at the airline, so we've got that drama of don't drink anything if you're going to run a long flight, and then the idea that you might be fat shamed because you've not declared that you need 2 seats. Oh my goodness, people have got no kind of empathy, have they? Not an ounce of empathy. Not everyone, obviously.
Now, I could understand them saying, well, if the flight's super booked and you're actually stopping somebody from taking that seat because you're running into it, I could see them possibly giving you a charge. But just to do that automatically, and then if you don't self-declare, we're going to charge you even more.
Yeah. Oh,
I think it was only like a
again, it's
$20 charge. I mean, it wasn't much for that chart, but and I think from all the public demand, they may have dropped that, but still, it's it's bad enough when people have to ask for an seatbelt extension.
Yes.
That's bad enough.
Yeah, and as you say, or the fact that you can't, your circulation is being cut off because of how your legs are squashed in. And this,
you can't put the tray down.
Yeah, the tray down issue. Oh my goodness, there's all of these issues, isn't there? And I think we're trying to be a bit more inclusive, aren't we? We are trying. I know we're trying to do a lot more for people with diverse abilities, mobility-wise and things. Why are we trying to pack people in like sardines? Why can't there's a wonderful
money?
Wonderful,
they could fit a couple more seats in and get a couple more airfares.
There's a wonderful cinema group in the UK called Showcase Cinema, and I'm happy to say, Showcase Cinema, you were wonderful, because every seat in their cinema is a lovely seat where you can recline. You've got fantastic room for your arms. Doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter how small you are, you're not having to pay extra, because every one of these seats is like that. That's what we should be doing for the world. Let's do more of that sort of stuff. Let's make things more inclusive for people rather than trying to always be chasing a buck.
Totally agree. So has the medication helped your high blood pressure at all, or is it staying the same, or your cholesterol, or?
Great question. Remember I said the pre-diabetes.
The pre-diabetes. I got that.
Remember that pre-diabetes? Well, first of all, I'm no longer pre-diabetic, and I don't know whether it's the medication or whether it's the sleep and the cortisol, because Jen from JC Calamity Jane, she was telling us in the, the behind the scenes live that we do with Hardrina Nair,
Mm-hmm.
we made these earrings as well, I might add. She sent them all the way from Texas to in the UK. But we had a panel where we was talking about A1C, and she explained that it's not just eating carbs that will help
Mm-hmm.
raise your blood glucose. Sometimes your body does it because it's in a stressful state. And again, we know my body was in a stressful state from before I got the collar machine, the CPAP machine. So I was not eating carbs anyway. So suddenly we're finding that I'm no longer pre-diabetic. Okay, so that's one great thing. The other great thing is that my cholesterol is, when we had the medication before, the review before, it was in nice, lovely levels, but I'm still taking a statin for that. But remember as well, I was mentioning about I had chronic kidney disease and
Mm-hmm.
they thought maybe I had Sjogren's. Well, remember back in 2018 when they found out I had aldosteronism that has been uncontrolled? That has been the thing that has been working through and ravaging my body. And when I did get COVID in September 2020, it's like that was the trigger that just unleashed the beast. And so I'm now trying to get the aldosteronism under control. So I'm currently on those 4 medications for hypertension. But when I had my last review, they said, your potassium level is really low, and that's why you're getting your heart palpitations. We need to review it again. And they said, but if it's low again, we might have to bring you off one of those medications. Well, if they only diagnosed me with primary aldosterone anyway, I'd be off all 4 of them medications, and I'd just be on one medication, spironolactone, I think it's called. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what that medication alone will stop the aldosteronism in its tracks, so that it balances that hormone out, which then would mean that if I've not got that happening, I wouldn't have the cholesterol spikes, I wouldn't have the hypertension spikes, I wouldn't have the fibromyalgia symptoms that I get and the Raynaud symptoms, and all those 11 medications that I'm currently on, the statin as well, could be down to one medication, the spironolactone, and maybe a second one, orforglipron, when that becomes available.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed that now, championing the fact that I've got heart disease, but now I've got that, hopefully that means that I'm further up the waiting list, because at the moment I'm on that 18-month waiting list. And then I'm hoping once that's sorted, I'll be able to get back to work again, because I'm really,
Awesome.
really missing work, really, really missing work.
Awesome. So you say that you're doing keto and you've done some intermittent fasting. Have you actually ever done the carnivore?
Another great question, Larry. So I was on, they do the Sunday service every Sunday, 6 o'clock British Central Time. So is that 1 p.m. Eastern?
I think so.
I'm terrible with the maths. We're 5 hours back. We're 5 hours ahead, aren't we? So anyway, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, there's a show called Sunday Service, and it's, I can't remember the names now. I'm going to forget the names, but it's Steph from Happy Sexy Cool, George from Good Enough for You, and John, and I can't remember his channel name, but they're carnivores, and they have people on from the different communities, keto, low carb, and they have people who've just transformed their health through eating. So they're asking me, I'm going to be on there in November sometime. But I was watching their show anyway last week, and I says, folks, you tell me, what am I under a label? What am I? And so I told them what I eat on a day, and they says, Joe, you're actually a hyper carnivore. Larry, you know me. I always want to be top girl. I always want to be best in class. So finding out I'm hyper carnivore, because I can't eat those colourful veg, I'll probably get a bell pepper, a green bell pepper, and a zucchini, one zucchini. That's all I'll eat a day, along with a huge amount of meat, fish, egg, and fats. So they said, you're a hypercarnivore. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but I do say, and I will say this again and again and again and again and again, no one wants to be eating the way I eat because, I like chicken and I like eggs, but there's no longer a joy for food. And this is
Do
long
you eat
before
beef?
Mounjaro. This is long before
Do you eat,
Mounjaro. It's no longer a joy for food because I can't make it joyful.
uh do you eat beef along with the chicken or just chicken?
I love a bit of beef. I'm loving, the one that I'm loving at the moment, Laurie?
Hmm.
Taco salad bowl. But I make it with ground turkey, love me some avocado. And because I am able to eat the animal fats, especially we call it extra mature cheddar. So I think you guys would call it ultimate aged cheese, aged cheddar, but it's so tangy, and I can eat as much of that as I want. So I eat as much of that as I want.
That's great. That's great. Because I've interviewed people that were carnivore, and they always say though because it's so much, especially beef and even chicken and stuff like that, it does get to be very expensive.
Yes, it does. Well, one of the things I'm loving as well, and again, this is why I say people wouldn't necessarily want my diet. Chicken livers. I love a chicken liver salad.
Hmm.
And
Me
so
too.
I buy chicken livers, and in the UK they sell chicken livers for under £2. So that's what, $3, $2.75, something like that. And if I'm low on my protein, so I always try and get at least 140 grams of protein. If I'm low on my protein, just throw in another egg. Eggs are nice and cheap, aren't they? So that's why the only supplements I really take, the one that I have to take, absolutely have to take, is the soluble fiber. And I make my own capsules to try and bring the price down. I just buy the psyllium husk powder in bulk, and then I put them into my own capsules and just take the capsules each day because I can't get enough fruit and veg into my diet.
Hmm. Yeah, I recently have had some problem with not getting enough fiber, and somebody told me, God, I forgot who makes them offhand, but there's these low sugar, basically almost no sugar gummy bears that have a full day supply of iron in its like 100-calorie packet. So
Oh
it kind of
wow!
takes care of your sweet tooth and gives you the fiber.
Now I was chatting with Lorraine about this, and I said, "So I said, tell me about them. How many do you take?" She said, I think she must have interviewed Gina from Anchor Moments, another great
Hmm.
channel. These fabulous channels that we're mentioning today. Well, Gina from Anchor Moments, apparently she got the taste for these gummies. She ate several packets. You can have too much fiber, and she suffered the cost of
Absolutely.
too much fiber.
But they're
But
not your
this,
typical gummy bear.
no, no, ma'am. And she said, you've got to work with your water. And I know, again, this is why you have to work with your doctors about how much water is safe enough for you to drink. But whilst your body, the whole point of the GLP is slowing down how it moves through the track, at least get the water to help it move it along together with the
Absolutely.
fiber.
The water helps the fiber actually do its thing. Otherwise, it's basically just going through you and not doing it. It's
Sitting there.
fiber thing.
It's just backing up, literally, isn't it?
Hmm.
For that traumatic trip to the toilet.
So with
I'm sure
all this chicken and all this protein, do you have constipation, or the fiber counteracts that?
the fiber in the water counteract that. I try and get about 105 ounces of water a day. And although I've got chronic kidney disease, my body likes lots of water. I still need to work on my potassium, but my doctor's told me not to take anything for potassium yet because he wants to test to confirm that I've got low potassium.
Mhm.
Awful, isn't it? I'm not able to treat my potassium by taking something that would help. So we've got to confirm that I've got low potassium. But that's the significance as well of the waters. Make sure that your waters aren't draining out your electrolytes as well, because that can be. Just work with your medical practitioner. That we always say it, don't we? Work with the medical
Mhm.
practitioner. They will steer you right.
Yeah, my cardiologist actually introduced me to element electrolytes because
Ah,
uh, I had high blood pressure and was taking two kinds of blood pressure medication. But as I lost the weight, I didn't realize that my blood pressure had stabilized and I was still taking the medication and I passed out. And it took
oh,
me like two times to figure out that it was my blood pressure because first I thought it was my blood sugar. And uh, then
right.
he said, well, now that you don't have high blood pressure, if you're still feeling dizzy or anything like that, salt is your friend. And he recommended element electrolytes. He goes, have a packet of this every day, at least one in your water, or break it up into a couple of bottles of water, because it is a little salty,
Yeah, yeah.
and go from there. So, again, listen to your healthcare provider. They know these
Yes.
things, they know these tricks, and they're going to
And
know
it's just
better than you, me, anybody on the internet, Dr. Google. They
Dr.
know a little bit
Google.
better.
Because as you say, you thought it was blood glucose that was the problem. Your
Because I
doctor
didn't
wrote
eat,
you
because
a
I don't like breakfast, so just by default of not eating, I kind of intermittent fast because I don't have anything from like 7, 8 o'clock at night till like 10, 11 o'clock, in
Oh
the morning.
yeah,
So,
you're doing that. You're doing that
so
automatically.
and I worked out, and this was in the morning, so I figured, oh, maybe it's my blood sugar.
But it was your blood pressure.
Hmm.
Wow. Again, this is why we need our doctors are our friends. We shouldn't stay clear of them or worry about what they might say for the things that we're doing. Because ultimately we're doing things to improve our
And
health.
yet people will talk to us a lot easier than they will talk to their doctors.
True. True. Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. And I wonder again if a lot of that is to do with the trust, having some
mhm,
having
absolutely.
some trust with their doctors. But especially you guys, I'm saying you guys, but I know it's easier for you guys to actually find different doctors. If you don't like a doctor, you find a different one, don't you?
Hmm.
Whereas in the UK, you're pretty much stuck with whichever doctor you get. If you signed up for a surgery, you just have to get whichever doctor they see you. But that's why it helps you to better understand your own issues so that you can tell them. I remember it was June of last year. I'm looking at the time, Laurie, sorry. It was June of last year that I'd been referred for asthma because I'd been saying
Hmm.
for the year, I'd been saying for the 2 years before, I'm really struggling to breathe and my heart rate is through the roof, putting all this weight on, my blood pressure's high. So I was referred to the asthma clinic. Then I went and saw a doctor again in January, not the doctor who talked to me about the Mounjaro, but another doctor that was there. And I says, but I'm still struggling with the shortness of breath, and this is why the sleep study. And the doctor says, do you know what you should try? You really should try losing weight. One thing I think you should do is you should start swimming. You've not heard a word I've just said to you. If you think that I could go swimming after I've told you I can't get off the seat, or I can barely breathe, and my blood pressure's through the roof. So again, sometimes that you've got to be able to advocate for yourself, and that's
Hmm.
what I did there. I was like,
Absolutely.
"There's no way I'm able to swim while I'm on this strong inhaler and still struggling to breathe." So yeah, definitely, there's that trust in the communication elements, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And, people should try any type of movement, even if you're chair dancing, chair yoga,
Yes.
anything like that. That's what my wife does who has COPD. Plus, like, she works from home and it's mainly on a computer. And we put one of these little like little elliptical things there that she can either
Yes,
rest her feet on or she pedals as she's working. She makes sure she gets in a good 45 minutes. Otherwise, she
oh,
just
that's
rests her
good.
feet on them. Uh-huh.
Do you know
Yeah,
one thing
just
I
any
do?
type of movement helps with every system.
Every system. Because I know walking is supposed to be a brilliant one. I'm not able to walk very far and for very long yet. And whilst my mobility is still problematic, I have dumbbells in the bathroom. In the UK, we call them bathrooms, but really we mean the toilet.
Hmm. Hmm.
And whilst I'm sitting there, because I've drank all of that water, and what I do is I call it toilet swimming, but this is me doing the front crawl. This is me doing the breaststroke.
Now, everybody, I want you to go toilet swimming today.
Toilet swimming. Take your
Backstroke
dumbbells
on
with
the
you.
toilet.
Do the backstroke. But as you say, it's movement, but it's movement as well that is strength training as well, isn't it? So it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter your ability to move if you could just move a little bit more and a little bit
It,
more.
it helps with your weight. It helps with your circulation. It helps with your digestive system. It helps with your circulatory system. It helps with your lymphatic system. It
Yeah,
helps with so many, your kidney system, everything.
yes. And I think again that was one of the reasons why the weight was going on and on, because I couldn't move. I was eating my 1,400 calories a day
You couldn't
that she
toilet
told me it
swim?
was supposed to. I didn't know about toilet swimming back then. But you know what? I don't think I'd have had the energy, because I knew I was struggling to wash my hair. I was struggling to wash my hair,
Hmm.
so but maybe I could have done the breaststroke.
There you go.
That's just a little bit of movement. And again, I think that's one that takes us back to why we do this stuff in the first place. It's not, you know, like you were saying, your brother, he's on a GLP-1. It's not really about the weight loss. It's about the health. And that's why if you
Hmm.
do your non-scale victories and just forget what's going off on the scale, forget what's going off on the scale. If you just look at, now I'm able to do this, now I'm able to do this, now I'm doing this less more, I'm not drinking quite so much, I'm not on Temu all the time like I once was, you know, I'm able to save money, and instead of going for a restaurant, I'm going to go and book a spa day. Those sort of things.
Absolutely.
That will mean that every day for the rest of your life is a wonderful day, not just that ability to get to goal and then think, right, now I've stopped.
So I kind of wrap these things up with it, with asking people what they would say to somebody thinking about doing a GLP-1 medication or have just started a GLP-1 medication.
I'll say what Richard said to me. If you're thinking about doing the GLP-1, it will change your life. He says, Joe, I promise you, it will change your life. But you need to prepare for some things. You need to prepare for the idea that you might get nausea, you might get constipation.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to counteract that? So make sure you're drinking enough water. Maybe you drink ginger tea or peppermint teas. Maybe you need an anti-sickness tablet. He says, you're probably going to get really, really bad digestive pain. So that first meal you have, make it a small one. Make it a small one. Make it a nice plain one. You know, you're not, your last meal, the first meal you're going to have is not a KFC bucket, for example. No problem with KFC bucket. But as you start in the process, you've got to know what it is that your body can handle. And he told me the worst case scenario is about all of these side effects and how to prepare for them. So I was prepared for them, and I didn't suffer them. But the point
Good,
was,
good.
I was prepared for them. So that's what I would say to anyone. Watch some of these wonderful channels that we mentioned. We've mentioned some great ones. Laurie's channel for a start, GLP-1 Journey and
Mm-hmm.
Review. It's got some fantastic, just those shorts that you do, those ones where you talk about protein and, you know, water and, you know, how to offset sulfur burps, the dreaded sulfur burps, you know, but those sort of things, watch those things as you're starting or if you've ordered the medication, get watching some of these great channels, and just
Absolutely.
you watch your life transform. It's not about weight loss, it's health.
And I want to remind everybody that Joe's information is going to be linked down below in the description. So after you're done watching this, liking and subscribing, jump over to her channel and do the same. It really does help. She's got some great playlists, so watch her entire playlist. She's got some great lives. We have so much fun on her lives. She'll be singing to us. She'll be doing everything. As you name it, it's going to come up on her live. It doesn't matter if it's GLP-1 weight loss. It's going to come up. Earrings could be the topic. There's many things.
Did you remember the live that I did the other day when I managed to get out and I just thought I was going to go for a walk? And then I started talking to all the youth who were telling me their plans for the future. Again, we don't know what's going to happen on my channel.
Absolutely.
It's a joyride. It's a joyride.
It's going to be fun, though, because Joe's a lot of fun. And I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure as always. And I, for a small disclaimer, I do want to say that Joe is in a little personal group that we have. So we do talk often. So we do know each other. So I just want to put that out in the open. And thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Laurie has been amazing. I'm so thankful to have met you, and I'm so glad to call you a friend. And again, I love your channel, but you are my
sister
friend.
From another mister.
So, with my dad, you might still. And on that note.
So with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. So thank you very much. And
thank you.
That's a wrap.